What's up, guys? Give it a couple minutes here for you guys to all get joined. In the meantime, I'm going to work on something here for just a second. Okay, hopefully everyone had a good week. Today kind of rounded out the Beast Can data. Last week it was all about subs, right? 762 by 39 subs, 300 blackout subs, and then the barrel length stuff. And then this week we did the same calibers, but we got supers. And then a few of you guys had also requested wanting to see 5.56 and 308. We'll get to that probably in a couple weeks, something like that. But big 11-inch can, there was a lot to find out here, right? Longer can, it's going to create more back pressure, a little bit more restriction. How well does it utilize all this extra length? And we explored that quite a bit. But I do have something I unfortunately need to tell you guys. But I think I'm going to give it a couple minutes just because it takes about 5 to 10 minutes for kind of everyone to get in here. So I have something that I need to show you. It relates to a previous live stream and a guest that we had on, and there was some inaccuracy to something they said, and it's come to light. So I've kind of been mulling it over all day on if I should even bring it up to you guys or not. But I mean, the right thing to do is to bring it up, I think. So we'll talk about that in just a second. Getting back though to what we were just talking about with what we've been doing on the Patreon. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different cans. I got some new cans from DDC we sent over this week. I've been playing with 6 arc and resizing brass from 6 Grendel brass. We talked. I put up a couple little videos about the Atlas, the Reardon Atlas in Alpha Threads. They were all public videos, not Patreon videos, but there is a big Patreon video coming. And it's also going to have to do with things like just how mounting pistol cans in general to carbines. So we'll talk about 3-lug, kind of how 3-lug works. We'll talk about all the different options you have to mount and attach your, whatever suppressor it is to your 9mm carbines, or for those who have 45 carbines, it's kind of the same thing or whatnot. But first I need to do something real quick, and that is I need to, it doesn't matter. I can do that later. So I want to give a big shout out to SB Tactical. They just sent me this. I haven't even opened it yet, but I am not one of those people who likes to warranty things, but some of you guys in one of my videos saw that this is an SBR. I really don't know why I still run a brace on it, but I've always liked this style of brace. The only other brace that I really like, or kind of this CQB style that I've ever really liked, is like the Honey Badger kind of stuff. Super popular, but this happened, and some of you guys saw this in one of my videos, and you guys said you should reach out to SB Tactical and get it warranted. And when I had to have my last warranty thing I had to do was end cap on my rugged Obsidian. Should be no surprise there, right? And that was a giant pain in the ass. I'm in the rugged group on Facebook. Some people say it's easy. For whatever reason, I had a bear of a time with it. I don't know if they just missed my emails or something. I'm not really sure. But SB Tactical made it super fucking easy to warranty this thing. And therefore, that deserves an honorable mention. So all I did was I just hopped on their site to get an email from them, an email address. I emailed them real quick. I attached a picture of my fucked up brace. And I said, hey, man, science student here. You think this is warranty? I have no idea. I leave it up to you guys. If they would have said no, it would have been no big deal or whatnot. But they literally wrote back in like 5 minutes and were like, yeah, man, no problem. What's your address? Okay, that's it? Really? Just my address? Replied my address real quick. Literally 2 minutes later, I had a tracking number. Fantastic. And they got me a new butt plate portion out. Now, the one thing I will say is no good deed goes unpunished, right? There is a black butt plate for a gray replacement. I don't care. It's no big deal. Doesn't really bother me. I'm just happy I got one. Especially since this one is cut down a little bit. So it doesn't bother me. But regardless, great customer service. Kudos to them for taking care of it, especially when they're in a time in the life of their company where braces are becoming probably, I guarantee there's been demand destruction in braces with everything going on with the ATF. There might be a spike right now because people think they get to amnesty them or whatever, and that might or may not be true in the long run. But I have a feeling, they might come under some pressure over time. Now, of course, some of their braces like this one, I mean, they're pretty cool. They look and function pretty well. And, maybe they'll have a good market still. I have no idea. I hope so. I hope we eventually get to fucking strike that shit down. But, yeah, so they valued it $119, so free $119. So that's pretty cool. Other kind of like stuff that we got this week. Moztec saw our 7.62 by 39 stuff we've been doing, and especially our subsonic stuff. And I don't know if you guys know this, but they're just north of me up in Phoenix, and they reached out, and they've reached out multiple times saying, hey man, if you need anything ever, just let us know. And I have never really taken them up on that. I've always, paid and ordered whatever I needed to. But this time around, they wrote me and they're like, do you want a 7.62 by 39 5-inch barrel to try out? And I said, well, shit, man. Yeah, why not? We've been doing a lot of different stuff with like the 7.5-inch barrel 300 blackout versus like the 10.5-inch barrel 300 blackout. So at some point, it would probably be nice to do the exact same kind of tests on 7.62 by 39 subs as well, and maybe supers too. So this is going to be a 1-in-5 twist barrel, very similar to basically a 300 blackout barrel, right? Just with a different chamber, more or less cut. Really small. It's a little shorter than typically what I like to run. But it will be fun to try something this short, especially on subs. And, we'll see what we see. Typically, since the store-bought off-the-shelf 7.62 by 39 subs, they tend to be a lighter bullet than what you can find sometimes in 300 blacks. So we'll see how that 1-in-5 twist does. I personally like 1-in-5 twist stuff. I like that fast twist on my 300 blackout stuff. So it's literally the same kind of thing for the most part on 7.62 by 39. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, and I think we have at least our main kind of viewership here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to play you a little clip from a live stream, okay? And then I'm going to comment on what the issue is. And before that, I should probably give a backstory on there were a few kind of little issues that came up with these two particular individuals about if they were businessly related to each other, if they had any involvement with each other other than friendship. And in the live, I wanted to kind of clear that up. So I'm going to do this. I am going to pause that, and I am going to share it with you guys so you can see. We are going to hit play, and hopefully you guys should be able to hear this.
But as far as him being in the business, he's not anything in Fuquay Precision Machining.
The clip is much longer than this. I didn't want to share the whole thing. You guys can go watch it. It starts at like an hour and like 29 minutes and like 20 seconds. It's about 2 minutes, but basically Fuquay Precision Machine, FPM Gunworks, right? That's Matt there on the right. We had him on the channel. We had what I thought was a really good live stream. And one of the questions that I asked towards the end was, again, to get some backstory. You guys probably have seen someone named Blake. I don't really know how to say Blake's last name. It's like Magdin or something along those lines. You'll see him a lot of times, recommend FPM cans. It's been no real secret that they're friends, obviously. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of people. I'm friends with a lot of people. But for example, Blake, he had x-rayed the Enticer, right? Not really a big deal. Put it out there, and we, like DDC, reached out and said, was this like Brandon got a little pissed about it. I'll just be honest. Like, Brandon got a little pissed about it, right? That they went to those extremes and then didn't, of course, then show their own inside of their cans if they're going to be showing other people's x-rayed inside of their cans. Matt's response at that time was that Blake had nothing to do basically with FPM. Everyone took that at their word, and then in the live stream, I wanted to clear that up. So I asked the same thing. What is Blake's involvement with FPM? Well, an interesting conversation started this morning on Facebook, of all places. Lo and behold, we all know how Facebook can be. And it started out, and I mean, a lot of this is, I'm going to keep absolutely private, but, a lot of it's public. You can go find it in the NFA Enthusiast channel. It's all there. It's like 40 different things. But, Blake said some things along the lines of, that he is part owner of the patent for FPM's suppressors, basically. And that right away was a red flag to me, because if you're part owner of FPM's patents, then you're part of FPM. Now, I reached out to Blake today and I said, you said this, what's the deal? He was extremely honest with me, 100% honest. And he basically said, yeah, I've got my own FFL. Me and Matt are friends. It was Blake's idea for the baffle, and that he basically and Matt kind of teamed up to bring it to market and patent it, and that Blake gets part of the royalties from, the sales of those cans and whatnot. So then I played that video clip for him, and I was like, to me, this is very disingenuous, because you guys kind of represent yourselves as, or I should say, at least Blake represents himself for sure as not part of FPM, and it basically came down to technicalities in their opinion, that Blake isn't employed by FPM. Blake doesn't technically own FPM, but he does get a kickback, a royalty for his half patent, which is the baffle tech that FPM uses. You guys be the judge on if you think that was disingenuous or not. But long story short, in my opinion, Blake and FPM are absolutely together. So just know that, okay? I wanted to be clear and transparent with this information, because I won't want inaccuracies in what happens in the live streams. If we hadn't had that live stream, I probably would not have said anything at all and just kind of let it ride. I've chewed on it all day. But I just want it all on an even playing field. Everyone has a different opinion on, who's involved with what. So I want to leave it as like the facts. I don't know that anyone was trying to do anything disingenuous or anything of that nature. It just gets a little murky with who's, with who. And I was even worried about that when I kind of got hooked up with the DDC thing. And that's why I went as far as to make sure there's like a DDC emblem in like all my stuff now, right? So that way it's just super transparent. I really like transparency, especially when we're out there in the social media world, like commenting and people are asking, what cans we think is what. I feel like people are kind of entitled to have a little bit of an idea of who, if you're in the business or when you're commenting. And that's really the only reason I'm trying to put this all together. I hope it doesn't like come off like the wrong way or anything, but that's where we're going to leave it. Now the record is as straight as possible. If you have questions, I would say reach out to them and they can clarify even more than what I can clarify, because it's them, it's their friendships, it's their businesses and whatnot. So yeah, that's where we're going to leave that. Now, and Blake is clarifying something. I've posted several other x-rays before DDC came to be. So there you go. Like I'm saying, like everyone, we all have opinions, but we don't always have all the facts. And that's what you kind of have to puzzle piece and put things together. So that might be absolutely true, but regardless, that was what some of the feelings were. And everyone kind of hashed it out and kind of came to terms with things. So I didn't even want to bring it up, but I did, just because there's kind of like so you understood kind of the backstory of how like this freaking little tiny controversy even came to be. Okay, hopefully we can leave it at there. Everything is good. All right, Chris, Suppress Station. I want a 6-inch, 1.5 300 blackout. I find, at least when I was doing my testing with barrel length and fast burning powders and 300 blackout, and then metering at how quiet things were at ear with different cans, I found the sweet spot for like the shortest you could really go with a really good fast burning powder and still get really, really good at ear muzzle, or I'm sorry, at ear results from a suppressor user standpoint. To be kind of like the 7.5-inch area, you could probably, still get really good sounding results still, right? Going even shorter. So people probably can shoot 6 and be absolutely happy. But if you kind of want like that MP5 kind of ISK, but with a centerfire rifle cartridge subsonic, I think 7.5 to 8 is like a really good spot to be in. And then I've really wanted to try to do maybe like an integral, or even just like a reflex 300 black sub can on like a 7.5-inch 300 black gun, and kind of make that small package with much better ballistic performance than 9mm. I think that'd be really cool to do at some point. So, and Blake says no one has ever reached out to me, by the way. Okay. I meant like they could reach out from here, but what kind of can did you put together that kept an AR-15 quiet as what? Well, I mean, AR-15s are chambered in a lot of different stuff, so it's really going to depend on like barrel length and what you're shooting. Here's a perfect example. Let's talk about like the Huxworks 5.56K, right? That style of can works really well. You get really good at ear results, but it tends to work its best when you're talking shorter barrels. What's going on inside that can works its best in those shorter barrels, right? You go to a longer barrels, you're not going to get as much performance. So therefore, another can in those situations might be a better choice, right? So that's how that question is almost too broad without knowing what it is you're trying to do. 5.56, for example, is vastly different than anything else you can really shoot. 7.62x39 supers is as well, especially with that larger bore. It's very similar to 5.56 and how it relates to like suppressors. Personally, if you're going to shoot like the quietest stuff in ARs, and you're looking at a small frame AR, you know, a normal standard kind of AR-15 size AR, and you're looking to shoot, you know, subsonic, I mean, there is no replacement, I don't think, for 300 blackout. You could get into kind of some of the 338 kind of stuff, but and then if you're a large frame guy like an AR-10, it gets a little bit broader. But if you are a small frame guy, your choices are basically 300 blackout or 350 legend. 350 legend is about the largest bullet diameter that I will shoot subsonic. You start pushing up into bullets larger than that, and your bore just, it'll still sound good, but your bore just becomes too big to really get that crazy level of suppression. It just is what it is. You've got to be able to get gas up the center line, right? I mean, that's how it works. And now you have 8.6 black. So for the large frame guys, you AR-10 size guys, things of that nature, 8.6 black is now your choice. If you're looking for that, you know, that extra distance, that extra heavier bullet, a little, you know, definitely from all the tests so far that have come out, it smacks. It smacks even with a subsonic bullet downrange pretty fucking hard. So you are not going to be as quiet as 300 blackout. I mean, you're talking even in the subs, at least double the powder. Okay, so it's very similar to almost the same powders as 300 blackout. I believe Q is recommending on the subs 1680. 1680 does pretty good in 300 blackout. I usually run something faster than that, but that's kind of to be determined, right? Not a lot of people have been able to experiment with making their own subsonic loads yet for 8.6. So those are really your choices. If you want to go even bigger than that, you get into kind of the 45 caliber stuff, but not my thing. Now you're talking a bullet that's, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of weight. It's a big bullet, and you might have an actual real world use for that. Okay, maybe you really do need to like really kill something that's big. And then that's okay, right? Then that becomes the practical choice. But if you're looking at kind of deer size targets and below, and you're looking for, again, this is all about as quiet as possible, right? Then probably you're going to want to stick with one of the three I just mentioned. Something a 338, 330 caliber, you know, bullet, or a 9mm diameter bullet. Sky is the limit from there. The bore will be small enough, basically, where you'll be able to make cans or buy cans that will work well and be very quiet for those types of things. That's about as best as I can answer that question without more information. I have a 10.5 and an 8, but I need a 6 to tuck a can into the rail I want. Just a want. Okay. You could reflex a can, dude. Make a little bit longer barrel. Make a 7-inch barrel. And reflex it. Tuck that sucker back. Don't bust my dreams of a quiet 450 Bushmaster to shoot deer. Hey, if that's your jam, then don't let me bust your dream at all. That's your jam, bro. Sorry, I got Ray from Thunderbeast texting me. Now I just lost what I was talking about. So sorry. Okay, so questions are done. So now we can pick up with some of the other stuff I was going to talk about. Let's start with, I want to kind of do like a public service announcement / a little bit of advertising, of course. But if you guys are looking for, first off, this is the DDC Enticer, right? Diligent Defense Company Enticer. This is an S. This is in RAW. for those who don't know, our end caps, our removable end caps, right, are the same thread and taper as end caps for dead air stuff. Okay. So you could, if you wanted to, if you didn't want to use a DDC end cap, you could take a dead air end cap and put in a DDC. Or say you didn't like the end cap in your dead air product, you could take a DDC end cap and put it in that, right? You could be a Form 1 dude who has dead air end caps in, some of your Form 1 cans, like this one here with this flash cap. And you wanted to, say you had a 30 cal bore and you wanted, a smaller bore cap. Well, you could switch it out for a DDC cap. These ones are just in a raw finish, but you can get them in other finishes. I'll show you one in a second when I pull out another can out of a box. But pretty cool. They're featureless, so they're not like anything crazy. But I do recommend a 5.56 cap if you're going to shoot 5.56 through a 30 cal bore. It does make the cans quieter. How much? It'll depend on the suppressor and what you're shooting, but it can be as much as 5 dB in some cases. It really is going to depend, but there's definitely a benefit there. So the other thing is we sell these things really cheap, like $50 cheap, versus like the dead air ones, I think are, depending where you find them and where you buy them from, I believe about the cheapest is probably in the 70 range. So it's a good option if you're looking for a cap. We do have the ability for you to take it on and off with like a wrench or something like that. So no real special tool needed. And then they do have little notches in between. So they do help with flash just a little bit. Nothing crazy. It's not like a fully developed flash cap or anything like that. That's going to be something for like down the road. But I wanted to mention them because of that. I like for stuff being able to switch caps and things of that nature. Having a cap that you can replace without sending a can in if you have a bath or an end cap strike is a huge bonus, in my opinion. So if you can get something like that on any of your cans, it is a little check in the column of as a good thing. So that takes care of that. And then I know I posted this on Instagram, but I kind of wanted to show you. Hopefully on video it shows up a little better. But we got a new color on the enticers that you can get. And so it's kind of like if we put FDE up, right? So that's an obsidian below in FDE. And then this is it. So it's kind of like a mix of FDE and gray. Kind of like it's just like when you look at a picture and you look at it in a camera, it doesn't really like it. You can tell it's kind of like a creamish color in those photos, but it's not that way in like person. Like I want to get like a truck painted this way. I love this color. As soon as the one got done, I was like, oh man, that looks so good. So I just kind of want to show it, but this is an Enticer L. And then there you can see, if it'll focus, how the caps are painted. And then they come with their direct thread mounts. The direct thread mounts are a blasted finish, like a sandblasted finish. They look really good on this particular color. They look pretty good in regards. I know most people, though, are going to, sub in something like, a chemo if they're a chemo person, or, I'm an Atlas person or an Atlas person. So there's your Atlas. And I mean, this damn thing just looks like this is now my new favorite can, to be honest with you, because I already really enjoy shooting the Enticer as it is, but now add the aesthetics to this bad boy. And I mean, I love how they came out, especially with our flats on the side here. And then the features, just the aesthetic features, and they do act a little bit grippy as well, even though they're really subtle. You go to grab this here with your fingers, and they do like catch in your fingers. So that's pretty cool. And it's not overly done, right? It's not like a bunch of tribal stuff. I wanted to show that. And we'll be metering enticers on the channel probably soon. Not too soon, but soon. We have, if you guys remember my like Turbo K clone I built a while back. So this is a 5-inch can, right? 3 baffles, that's it. This is a 5.56 board can. This is a 6 1/4 inch 1.5 OD can that we're probably going to be looking at this next week. It's going to use selective venting in it, and this is going to be the next installment of our selective venting stuff. It's also going to mean another shorter can, and like an S can in our ranking stuff, so I'm looking forward to that. The next S can we'll probably do will be an Enticer S. And then we'll have a couple more now kind of shorter cans, some non full size cans. But I'm really looking forward to see how this does, because we're also going to be looking at it when we go and we do the 10.5-inch barreled stuff versus 12.5-inch mid gas length system barreled stuff as well. So that data is coming. Also, dedicated 5.56 bore, and we typically have not shot on the channel at least a ton of dedicated 5.56 cans, so this one kind of checks off 3 or 4 boxes in a good way. And then when we shoot the Enticer S, we might do a like a supplement to that where we shoot it with a 5.56 end cap on it and compare 30 cal and 5.56 end caps when we shoot Enticer S, as well as all the other shit that we do with it. And we'll rank it all with all of the different tests we've done. So yeah. How does it look for the DDC 5.56 hitting the market before the end of the year? It's October now. Probably not, to be honest with you. I don't want to say yes because I don't know that it will. I don't think it will. It could. I guess it depends on like how serious we really start to get with it, because we've been kind of going in a few different other directions all at the same time, a few different projects all at once, and that is probably not the right thing to do, right? But at the same time, as a new developing company, we're trying to get the whole line kind of built. You guys saw the 8.6 can come out, right? One thing I want to mention is you can shoot a 9mm size projectile through that can. So you guys who are looking at like Rex 458 cans, I would give the DTF, which is what that can's called, a good looking at. I think you're getting a lot more for your money at that point. But, again, I'm biased. Like we've been working on the 22 can. There are a few other things that have kind of come up that we're like, man, we could really do this and this would be great and wouldn't be like super hard to develop, that have popped up that are kind of getting in the way a little bit. That's about as much as I can say on that, but I don't know. I'm optimistic, but I don't think it will, because also to bring a can like the actual one, like we go to like finally machine it, have the surface finishes done, have them welded, we do all this shit in house, but it's a lot of processes, and you have to take machines that are making other things like current enticers and do that instead, right? So that's how like can production is. It's in batches. So like the other day, Cougar asked me when 17.4 enticers might come back in stock. And it was the same kind of thing. It's like, okay, like right now he sees only Thai ones. And I guarantee you we'll get 17.4 ones out. And by that point, the Thai ones will all be sold. And then people will be like, when are Thai enticers coming back out? So, there's only so much you can get done in a day. And it's just how it works. Everyone makes their cans basically in batches. You focus on one product and you run and make all the parts for it. And then you make as many as you can and you fill your orders. And then you go to the next product in your line. And then eventually you circle back around to that original one. And that's just how it works. I mean, even a company as big as like Dead Air or Silencer Co., they run into, people are going, when is such and such going to be back in stock? And the more products you offer, the harder it is to get them. And then the more successful a company gets to, the more than they need of that product. And that it's just, you know what a wage price spiral is? It's kind of like that, but with a good. These are goods. So it won't be 14 and a half, it'll be 12 and a half, which I do believe is the best balance of really short and sound suppression when it comes to 5.56. The only reason I can see anyone going to 14 and a half, no offense, is literally to pin and weld a muzzle device to be at 16. If you're not going to be pin and welding a muzzle device to go to 16 inches to avoid a tech stamp, then I think 12 and a half is where you should be. I don't really understand 11 and a half very much, because at that point you might as well go 10 and a half, in my opinion. So 10 and a half is a little bit on the short side. We tested 10 and a half. When I say 10 and a half, I also mean 10.3. So I'm talking about Mark 18s, basically. And we all know those to be predominantly loud and very hard to suppress, especially with carbine length gas systems. So have found, and I'm not the only one, that 12 and a half seems to be proving, as long as we're running a mid-length gas system, a really good spot. You got to be tuning your guns, though, guys. Like, people who don't want to use adjustable gas blocks, I don't get it. I know there's a lot of hocus pocus about them, but there's no reason to be. Just make sure you're buying something that's quality and make sure you're tuning it properly. And it's not that hard, and it's totally worth it in the long run. I don't really want to give away anything yet because I want all the results to be fresh and new, because there's some pretty cool stuff. And yeah, so when we get to it, we get to it. But first, we're going to meter and compare this to everything else. And then we'll take some of that data, and then we'll get the 12 and a half and the 10 and a half together. And then we'll put it all together. We'll meter it all, and then we'll look at all those, and we'll have very clear conclusions, I think. Don't go dead air and make us wait 10 years for 5.56. No, but at the same time, we want the 5.56 can to be some very specific things, and if you're going to put them all together, that's not too easy to do. First off, we don't want it too complex, right? But we also, therefore, still want it to basically beat everything, if possible. We want it to be, again, easy enough also to make, where we can make lots of them instead of having something super niche and really hard to make, but then we can't scale it up and make enough of them to really please anybody. Because what is like a crazy complex suppressor if you can't get enough of them, right? So we're basically trying to do that, and then we're also trying to keep it extremely affordable. We don't want it to be like the cheapest can out there. I mean, that's not our goal, but we also don't want to be what is kind of the market's been trending towards like more and more expensive cans. I don't want you to have to buy an $800 6-inch can or more. There's $1,200 cans out there now. So a little bit crazy it can get. Now, that said, 3D printing is really expensive in cans right now, and that's part of the reasons why the 3D printed cans are fairly expensive. Even when you're doing a lot of them, it's not too deflationary yet. So when I see people comment like, "Oh man, 3D printing, it's going to be the future," it's absolutely the future. You're right, but I don't think we're really going to get there super fast. I think it's still going to take a while. We got to get the machines to come down, and the machines have to be able to make a lot more than they already do, if that makes sense. Okay. Adjustable gas block is greater than, You're not wrong. Okay. I have 2 or 3 more things I wanted to talk about, other than your guys' questions. We'll start with hopefully the person who asked me this week about Silencer Co. and the Reardon Atlas saw my little quick video I threw up today about what the threads are. But most of your Silencer Co. like Omegas and Obsidians are going to have these Silencer Co. housings of some sort. Now they're not all Bravos. There are a couple oddballs out there, but they basically all have an alpha thread inside of them. Reardon is going to make a specific mount just for the Silencer Co. crowd at some point, because you have to be able to, just like the cap on the end of these, be able to recess in here to really get down into the threads, because you're only going to get about 2 threads. Now, could you get away with this with 9mm? Like I said in that video, use at your own risk. It's possible. Another example of this would be if you use like 3-lug mounts that exist for them. So like this is an alpha threaded Kaw Valley 3-lug mount. Same kind of deal, right? Like you're only getting like a 1.5 to 2 threads. I know of people who have done this with these and not had problems, at least with 9mm. I don't know about 300 blackout. Again, completely use at your own risk, or wait for the one that's specifically for this to come out for you Silencer Co. folks. But hopefully that answered the question that the person had, and I'm just trying to reaffirm it again, because I don't know if their social media is fickle, and all the algorithms, you don't always see everything people post on a day in, day out basis. So I'm just trying to make sure that that question got answered. But then for you Patreon guys, like I said, we're going to do a whole big, more in-depth video on just mounting carbine, or I should say pistol cans to carbines, or cans to carbines in general. You want to put your Obsidian on your carbine. How do you do it? Of course, you can use a 3-lug mount, or like I was saying, you can use something like Reardon's Atlas mount. That's how I do it. That's how I like it. Everyone is a little bit different, but we're going to go into the ins and outs. We'll talk about direct thread. We'll talk about combination mounts and things of that nature. And that covers that. Which leaves me with really my only other thing that I kind of wanted to touch base on that I've been working on. And that's for you reloaders, because I know we have some reloaders in our little group. Now, I am not the reloading expert. I've never been like some dudes who are in the reloading world. I mean, they're like encyclopedias, right? They just know everything there is to know about reloading. I know enough to get by. It's never been... I've never had like the passion for it that some people have. Like I like it. It's great and all. But just like I'm with suppressors, some people are like that with reloading, right? But long story short, 6-arc ammo has been a bitch to come by. And you guys probably saw, because I was really proud of myself, that I posted up, some cases I've been working on. And basically, I got a bunch of 6.5 Grendel cases finally. And this is going to be for you 6-arc guys who maybe don't know this, but there's plenty of videos on YouTube on how to do it. But I want to kind of say some of the things that I ran into that might be a little different than what came up in those videos. But long story short, it was very easy to take a 6.5 Grendel case, throw it in, get it clean, and then go and do a 1-pass resize. Not too hard to really resize it. The one thing that I ran into is I had to do a lot more trimming than I would have liked. So I had to trim it down. And once I got it trimmed to my overall length, which my target was 1.485, I think, if I remember right. I don't know. Like it. We have a micrometer right here, or a caliper right here. Yeah, 1.485. That was my target. The longest you can go is 1.490 according to the book. Most of the ammo I have, factory ammo, was all at 1.485, so I figured that's where I would like to stick. All of that chambers in my guns. Everything's great. But long story short, even if I trimmed my case after that first resizing, I could not get them to load in my guns. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. So long story short, I basically had to resize them one more time once they've been trimmed, and then trim them one more time because then they grew a little bit longer after that. And then they would fit in my gun. So it was like a step one, repeat twice type of thing for me. So if any of you guys go to do 6 arc from 6.5 Grendel to 6 arc, that is something you may end up having to do. I've got these all mixed up now. 6.5 Grendel and 6 arc, the cases look so freaking similar, even once they're resized, that they're kind of hard to tell apart. It's really just going to be the shoulder, where the shoulder is located. I don't know how well that's going to show up. And the angle changes just a little bit, it looks like. But I'm really looking forward to shooting my 6 arc a lot more. And that is the finished product. So I am very happy with how they turned out. I've got to do, a ladder test or two to figure out what my final load is going to be. But once we get that all dialed in, we are going to finally meter some cans on 6 arc. So I'm looking forward to doing that. 7mm mag, Enticer L, run a Sandman, muzzle brake, or Nomad. Any testing on this? So are you talking about an e-brake, or are you talking about like an actual muzzle device? Because I'm not aware of any muzzle devices that are Sandman to Nomad specific. So I'm assuming you mean an e-brake. And I will go grab you an e-brake and show you. Okay. So assuming you mean a data e-brake. I couldn't find a Nomad one, but I did find a Sandman one. So on an Enticer, it's a mid-body can, right? So what do I mean by that? You got something like Nomad L or the Mad. These are big 175 OD cans. Got something like this. I mean, a lot of your 5.56 cans, things of that nature, they're usually 1.5 OD, maybe 1.55. That's typically about the biggest. We kind of play in the middle at 1.625. It's a really good balance of size versus, total internal volume. It gives you enough room too on your baffle to be able to do some different features and stuff, especially when you want to get in like coax and things of that nature. Really, the only time I'm going to go and like bigger 1.75 cans is unless there's really like a true need for it. Like some weird complex, coax stuff, or maybe you're shooting some big bore stuff, right? Like when you do get into those 458, 45, 70, that type of stuff, your Magnum, your big Magnum stuff. Okay, yeah, sure. Let's press up in size. But long story short, your Sandman e-brake, we'll put it on. And then this actually brings me to a good point. If you need an end cap for your Sandman e-brake or your Nomad e-brake, the DDC ones will work. I'm just going to lightly put it on. But here is what a Sandman one is going to look like on a 1625 cam. Now, it's tapered down in the front, so it will match. Okay? It was done on purpose. But it is going to be a little bit funny looking, especially because we've got the two different colors. But assume they weren't two different colors and you'd be good. Now try to imagine what this would look like if it was 175. So it would actually be a little bit bigger than the can. So you can use one, absolutely will work, but it is going to basically look a little bit funny. Whereas if we put this on a 1.5 OD can, like a Sandman or something like that, they'd basically be the same OD, and therefore they look flush, they look smooth. So you can absolutely do it. It'll absolutely work. You may just or may not like how it aesthetically looks. That's really what it's going to come down to. So you have kind of two choices. It's really kind of hard to answer your question because one is going to literally be bigger than the tube and one's going to be smaller. I would say smaller at that point is probably going to look the best than having one that's bigger and then, more in your sight line as well. So that's what I would do if I was going to run one. Huh? What the hell is this? Anyway, we'll get back to that. Okay, so I think that covers everything I wanted to cover tonight, unless you guys have more questions about anything. Yeah, I think I'm good. The only other thing I didn't mention is that if you do want an alternative to alpha threads, so say you had a Form 1 can that used Liberty threads, or just a Form 4 can that used Liberty threads and you wanted to attach it to your carbine. Right now, there's not a Liberty Plan B kind of family, Atlas family mount. So therefore, you can get ones from Echo Machine, and that'll allow you to run your 9mm, can or whatever that has Liberty threads, 1.180 threads, with his mount. So. Have I heard any talk of Surefire making a new RC can? No, I have not. Shit, when's the last time Surefire really came out with anything actually interesting? It's been a while. I would, it's funny now that Rugged this week came out with, I don't know if you guys saw this or not. We can even pull it up real quick if you guys want to see it. But Rugged came out with their Alaskan can, which is going to be a big bore can. So now you're going to have, before it was basically hybrid and Sound Circle hybrid, and then you had Dead Air Primal. That was really it for a big bore can. Now you've got Rugged coming out with their Alaskan. No idea how it's going to perform. I guarantee you it has literally the exact same baffle as all their rifle cans. So the one big thing that they finally did different was they went to a user serviceable, hub on the end. So what does that mean? That means they went to 1375 by 24 threads, meaning you finally get the choice of what mount you want to run. And in relation to that, because they still need, of course, and want to, they literally, I saw them comment on something on one of Andrew's posts, actually. they want you to still be able to, of course, run their mounts and their muzzle devices. Um, and then they also want other people who maybe don't own their cans to be able to do that. It's something people have asked for a long time. But you can finally mount a rugged, Rugged now makes a mount that will work for their muzzle devices that is hub threaded, just generic 1375 by 24 threads, and let you use their stuff if that's what you like. Okay. Nomad will keep your cover on. Hey, that's a good point. Yeah. If you're using a cover, that would be a good point. It would keep it from sliding off. That's a good point, Tyler. Thank you. If I wanted to ring every last decibel out of a can, what muzzle device would you recommend? Well, are we talking about Surefire still? Because I think you were talking about Surefire before, or I might have you confused with someone else. I'm sorry. If I get to pick the mount, okay, and I'm looking for the most suppression I can ring out of a can, like you put it, it's getting an Atlas mount from Reardon, and it's getting probably an RPB, a round port brake, the round port brake. I can go grab one in the other room if I need to. Or if it's a pretty big blast chamber can, it's getting their DPB, their double port brake. Those things work fantastic. If neither of those is available, then just their regular single port is what I would use. If I was really super worried about flash suppression, I'd already used, this is a key part here, I'd already used one of the 3 brakes I just mentioned, and I'm still maybe trying to ring even more flash suppression out if my can somehow was still kind of flashy for me, which most of the time it will not be if it's a good can and all that nonsense. And when I say good can, by my definition, probably not yours. Then I would use the duckbill 3-prong flash hider that Reardon makes. And then if that wasn't available, I would use the R2S. And if it was a really big blast chamber can, I would use the longer version, which I can't think of the name at the moment, but I have one right here. Which is this guy right here. So it's kind of like a really long A2, but in Plan B family, and Reardon makes it so it's literally fantastic in every way, shape, and form possible. So there you go. You kind of have something for everybody. If you're the suppression crowd, the flash crowd. Just know flash hiders, especially when you're shooting 5.56, they're going to wear out your blast baffle even quicker than direct thread. Okay. That said, flash hiders on 5.56 can be something that increases sound suppression because 5.56, especially short barrels, has so much unburnt powder. It does help that powder get burnt up in the blast chamber. So there's kind of a caveat in there on what you're shooting, but it definitely comes at a cost. The RPB, though, like outside of a can, yeah, it's going to be flashy as fuck. But that spiral kind of shape that it has, that's actually going to help burn shit up inside the blast chamber as well, and can also decrease flash suppression when a suppressor is used as well. I've done some testing with it, and it works pretty well, actually. And then when you go to bigger bore stuff, like 30 cal bore and up, that's where it really starts to get hard to flash suppress. I was disappointed by the number they posted for the new rugged can. Would that be the... Okay, because I can kind of go different ways with this. I had some people disappointed with how expensive the mount was. I don't know that anyone posted anything about performance, so if you have that information, feel free to share it. I've never been the DB numbers. Okay. Did they post it on their own? I'm assuming it's like on their website or something where they post like little details underneath and they tell you how much reduction. I'll have to go look at that. I mean, we can look at it real quick if you want, if that's where it's at. First off, 45 cal bore stuff, immensely hard to suppress. That's why I was saying earlier in the beginning of the video. If you're looking for, the best balance of a heavy bullet and quiet, like a 356, 365-ish bullet size tops. 338's a pretty good balance. So, I mean, when you have a bore this big, right? Gas, no matter what you're doing, is always going to choose the easiest path. Always. The only thing that is going to stop that from happening is literally the bullet being in the can. So once that bullet exits the can, there's really not a lot going on after that. So let's look at Rugged's site real quick. We will stop screen share and we will add a new screen. We'll put me in the corner so you guys can see nice and big. The most adaptable lightweight 30 caliber or multi-caliber suppressor, able to handle hard days at the range, back kind of eventually lost concentration. So guns to 9mm, up to 338. Okay, so damn, they didn't go with a bigger bore than that? I thought they went with a bigger bore than that. I really haven't even looked at this week. I looked at the outside of it, and I looked at some of the guns they had, and I could have sworn that they were targeting an even larger bore. So that's interesting. Darren ordered one just so we can look at it. I was waiting to do that. So I'm basically just as fresh with this as you guys are. Okay, so basically it's just a regular 338 can. So this is probably because of 8.6 coming out. That's why everyone's coming out with 8.6 cans, including us. Because everyone pretty much expects the 8.6 to be extremely popular. So we've got a 17.4 set of baffles, pretty standard for rugged, body 17.4, okay. Their mount, they went titanium, nothing wrong with that. It's not gonna be seeing that much heat. It's nice and light, just means it's a little more expensive, which it is more expensive, that's for sure. Oh, there we go, sound levels. Okay, at ear. 308, 130.8, and 556, 130.4, and 300 blackout, 130.1. A lot of 130s there, huh? It's almost like they made that up. Without having more information, it's tough to say. Like, first off, is it an A-weighted or is it, an unweighted, unfiltered type situation? So that will be higher. I feel like those are probably even lower than where I bet you they don't do even what they say they're going to do at ear. They don't mention a host. They don't mention a barrel length. They're basically worthless numbers. Like, I don't know what you can do with them without all the additional information that would need to be there for you to have a remote idea. 127.8 on 9mm at ear. I would have an extremely hard time believing that. Unless we're talking again, like, I'm thinking this is all probably like maybe bolt gun stuff, right? Which means the at ears are going to be pretty fucking low numbers anyway. But even at, like, here, let me grab my data book. Oh my god, we have so many tests in here too. It's not even all of them. So that's so like on an 18-inch 308, for example, Hyperion, peak dB at ear, bolt gun. It is, yeah, it's about, I mean, Hyperion for me on this particular day with this particular ammo, this particular host. See how these things matter? Averaged out to about 129. The control can we shot with it was about 129 3/4. So I mean, there's one kind of example. Want to kind of go to the louder end of of a can that was okay but didn't like really kill it, our Duolingo Pocket Cone vented can, which isn't set up at all for 308. I mean, that's a 134 to 135 range on 308. So I mean, it's tough. We'll see what it really does. How big is it? Length. So it's a 1/6 diameter. It's the same basic diameter as like a enticer. 7.5 inches with mount, 6.6 without. Yeah, there's no fucking way. I know exactly what's inside of it. It's going to be the same baffle they've always used, and it's never done well. So they're either using a longer barrel and again, everyone's going to have a little bit different number when they're metering. Like, that's the thing. You guys really can't take, like, you can't really take anyone's meter data and then go compare it to someone else's, really. It just doesn't work that way, especially when you're using different ammos and stuff. I mean, ammo alone can be an easy 3 to 5 dB difference, right? So, I don't know. I mean, if these numbers were true, then yeah, it's doing pretty good, actually. So I'm not sure what even on the 338 Lapua, I mean, 136 at ear, no muzzle numbers, so that's interesting. At least surprised they didn't put muzzle numbers. Not that they really matter too much, but they do tell us a little bit about flow rate in the can and what bystanders might experience. I don't really like how it looks. It looks fucking funny, but I mean, I'm happy that they finally went to a user serviceable mount. I'm happy they came out with a product, period. I mean, that's good. So, I mean, let's just call it optimistic for now. We'll see what it does. Like I said, I mean, Darren ordered one. I'm sure we can borrow it and see what it does. And if they killed it, man, that would be fantastic. You know, all the best for them. 300 black for that can could be better. What was it? 130.1. Yeah, I mean, that's not awful. That's not bad. I mean, that's still good. I mean, it could be lower. You're absolutely right. But again, I have no idea what it's on. If it's on a bolt gun, yeah, that's really not that great. If it's on like a 10-inch semi-auto, that's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. So again, we literally don't have enough information to know because they literally didn't put any information. They didn't put ammo. They didn't put, what they're testing on. They didn't put what kind of meter they're using. They didn't put, I mean, they literally didn't put anything to have any like actual substance to it. I might as well write numbers down on a piece of paper right now, make a suppressor and post it with just those numbers and sell it because that's all those numbers basically mean. And they're formed without the additional information. Hopefully, maybe they add that information. People, I'm sure, could write them and ask, hey, you might want to put additional information here. Maybe they'll give it to you, maybe they won't. Does the regular double port brake push a 14.5 over 16? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he lists it, though, if it would. But I don't think so. I think it's... Let's look. Let's look together. I don't know why I'm doing that on my phone. We might as well do it together, right? If not, I can text him real quick and ask him. I have to try to remember so many things. It's crazy. Some people are great at that, too. Me, I remember the key things. All right. So it's 2.365 total length. So let's go grab one and we'll just fucking measure it. Okay, I'll be back. So let's make me big again. All right. Double Reardon DPB. Another Toyos. So this is like a generation 1-1. So I'm coming up with 233 on mine. I think he put 2365 or 236. I don't know. I forget. But this is going to depend on how long your barrel tenon is too. So that's going to be part of the problem here. But let's say we will, I don't know, half-inch in. Let's say you have like a, no, let's actually go to the kind of longer side. So let's say 0.6. So we would just take our OAL here and we're going to be squaring up on the shoulder, right? We might even use a small shim or something. So, I mean, you subtract, let's say 0.6 or even 0.7 from 2.3. Yeah. So yeah, you would be long enough to get to 16 inches on a 14.5, which I would bet he probably did that on purpose. I think it's the 13.7 crowd that struggles with needing something, but I think Riley finally came out with something a while back. Let me look. Liberty Precision. I bet you Riley has good notes because he's really anal about that kind of stuff. All right, pin and weld. This is a Blam, whatever. 2.25. So basically the same length as DPP gets you to 14.5. So he's basically made something slightly shorter than DPB with this. And it's getting him to 16.1 on a 14.5. So, I mean, that basically confirms what I was already saying. But I wanted to see if he had anything that gets him to 13.7. That's a long ways to go to get from 13.7 to 16. And I know we're all kind of talking about it in the group at one point, but I don't think anyone came up with something that like looked good. And that was part of the problem is like you could do it, but it just looked like shit, I think. I mean, look, even like the way he's got it here, it's basically your normal like Eclipse, but with a shaft on the back, right? Now that shaft should match your barrel profile. So once it's on the barrel, it should look pretty good, right? And that's what he's going for there. So in that, like doing it that way, you could probably make something longer. Like imagine taking a DPB and then putting the shaft on the back to then match the barrel profile. That would be a thought. That would probably be the only way you could do it where it might actually look half decent once it's on a gun. It looked funky as hell not on a gun, kind of like this kind of looks a little funky. But once it's on a gun and it matches that barrel profile, it'd probably be all right. So there you go. You got basically two options for you 14 and a half crowd dudes. And then you said, sorry, RPB. Well, RPB is not going to get you there. I can tell you that now without going and even measuring it. RPB is going to be like, just like an Eclipse would be basically from length. It usually protrudes about 0.9 past mount. So let's just do this. I don't think I'm sharing my screen. I apologize, but let's see what it. Yeah, doesn't have an overall length on here. What an asshole. Okay, I guess we can grab one real quick. I think there's just one right here. No, they're in the other room, but I did have a duckbill one, which is they're literally the same freaking length, plus or minus like 50 thou. So you're 1.64 on a normal size Plan B kind of family. Again, plus or minus, let's say 50 thousandths of an inch. So max, if we're generous, is probably 1.7. We again subtract anywhere from a ½ inch to 7/10 of an inch from the shoulder. And that gets us, I mean, yeah, you're 9/10 of an inch to an inch at most. So you would need, you know, a 15-inch barrel, which there aren't. Well, at least not that I'm aware of. All right. Anyone have anything else? Thank you for checking that length. You are extremely welcome. If something else is needed checked, I can go grab it and look real quick. Pretty much have one of everything for the most part, other than, I mean, it's impossible to have one of everything. But we got a lot of stuff. I'm a muzzle device and I'm a mount kind of whore. Speaking of muzzle devices and mounts, it's been months and I have not done it because I've been so focused on cans. I still have not done Xeno content, like a video about Xeno. From the mount, how it works, what my thoughts are on it, and then we should probably meter a few cans with them and compare them to some, other stuff that does really well and see how they do. If Atlas wasn't around, I would probably use Xeno. That'd be my second choice, though I would want some more aesthetically pleasing muzzle devices, if that makes sense. I mean, that's the best thing about the whole Reardon Atlas and the Liberty stuff, right? Not only does it perform fantastic and work really well and everything, it all looks really good too. Like, really, really good when it's on stuff. Not to mention they do such a good job, both those companies, just making a very good quality product. You get one and you very rarely will ever find one that's, not very good, like with a problem. So I think there's a way to cut weight from a chemo mount like what Area 419 did. Yeah, it's not going to be cheap. So chemo is pretty much all for, 4140, I think, if I remember right. 4140, regular old carbon steel. Why would that be? Be a few different reasons. Typically cost is going to be one of them, but you could go to titanium right off the bat and that would cut weight, right? It would be expensive though, and the margin on the part would be less, so they wouldn't be making as much money on it. to keep it at least somewhat reasonably, in price. Other than that, there's maybe a couple small things you could do to bring it down a little bit, but mainly you need most of what is there for it to be what it is. And really the only thing you could truly do to like get like a good weight savings would literally be going to titanium. How much would something like that cost? It's going to be, of course, an economy of scale, how many they are going to make per batch. Chemo is pretty complex to make because it's not just one part, right? It's not like this where it's just one part. Now there can be complex machining on one part, and that also is going to increase costs. But when you start having multiple parts, costs go up crazy, right? Because now you have multiple parts, multiple machines that have to make things. Now you have to have someone assembling everything. So that is tough. So the only way you get the price down is to go with cheaper material or scale up where you're just doing so many of them that your machine time per part gets you to the most, like the cheapest part possible. You try to simplify the design in different spots. That's another way you can kind of get around some things. But yeah, for chemo, it's not an easy mount to make. It's not a cheap mount to make. And it's not a very forgiving mount when it comes to longevity. There's parts that wear on them, and that just is what it is. If you're kind of pay to play, I don't really understand chemo, why people like it so much. I know it makes cool sounds and everything. I know there was a time where there weren't as many choices, and therefore that was absolutely probably the best choice. Now I don't think that's the case. And, I know a lot of people like the ratchety sound. I guess you could go put playing cards in the spokes of your bicycle and get the same thing. Doesn't mean it's, whatever. People think chemo, this isn't to like talk bad. Like, I like chemo. I think it's a great idea. It just isn't something that can really be scaled and be cost effective, right? Imagine if they went to a more expensive material, for example, would instantly increase. Like, just going from, let's say you're just starting with a piece of bar, right? And let's say they're getting 4140 for, I don't even know, what does 4140 go for right now? Let's say 1.5 inch bar. So Online Metals wants $29.63 for 12 inches. They're not going to be paying a price anywhere near that because they're going to be buying it in mass. They're going to be buying it direct from somewhere. So let's just cut that price in half, let's say. So $29.63 divided by 2. So let's say it's $14.81. So then 12 inches. So that's $1.24 an inch, let's say. Okay. So now you go from something like that to, let's say, 17.4. Okay. So 17.4 right now is probably $5 to $6 an inch. So that's instantly just in material for that piece alone, probably 5x more expensive. Okay. Now, I mean, if they're only using an inch or two of it, okay, that's not a huge deal, right? I mean, you're going from, okay, we use, let's say, $2 of material to make this base housing portion of the chemo. So yeah, it only costs us $2, but now we go and now it's going to cost us $6. But we're buying 5,000 or 10,000 of them, right? So they go from, let's say they're making 5,000 a batch. So 5,000, and it was like $1.25, let's say. So it's $6,250, let's say, in material. So then they go to 17.4, let's say, and that's 5 times more expensive at $5 or $6 an inch, right? So instantly, that batch of chemos goes from $6,000 in material to $30,000 in material. And then let's say they go to titanium, which is even more expensive right now. So then that goes, let's say, another $2 an inch or something like that, right? So before you know it, even just switching materials gets expensive. Then you go to something like 17.4, and you might go through inserts faster. You might have to have someone at the machine more often checking wear on your inserts. It all adds up quickly and can quickly increase the cost in a single part fairly quickly. It might seem like small change, even if it increases the cost per unit by $10. All right. Then they want to keep the same margin, right? So let's say they have a 60% margin in their part when they sell it wholesale to silencer shop, right? And then silencer shop needs to be able to mark it up, let's say, another 60%, right? So see how even just raising something $10, let's say, then marking it up now 60% from that extra $10, and then someone else marking it can quickly make something very expensive. Just something as simple as just changing material. So then add all the complexity of chemo, and yeah, I mean it's a problem, and it's every manufacturer's problem. It's not just unique to chemo. Every manufacturer struggles with, what material we can get away with or use, or what's the best for this situation, what's it going to cost, how much we can get, and then we can make. How much do we need to make on these when we sell them wholesale? How much, can we make an MSRP for when customers get them? What are customers actually going to be willing to spend on something like this, right? So you already have a ceiling a lot of times. Same thing's happening with gasoline right now, right? We're finding out that people are willing to pay more for gasoline. People are still eating up gasoline like a motherfucker. And then you get OPEC going, well, fuck it. Let's keep prices high. Let's cut barrels. I just went in a complete tangent there. I apologize. With that said, if was to get someone to cut the chemo off by Sandman and weld adapter for 1/3 by 24, would it change the performance of the can? Yeah, probably. It'd probably make it quieter depending on what you went to. Echo does those, by the way, if you want to have Echo machine cut off your Sandman. It's actually funny. We were having a conversation the other day about trying to design, specifically for the Sandmans, a way to pull chemo off and then utilize a different mount that use the existing structure that is there on Sandman, and what you may or may not be able to do, and how it would look, and what size threads you might be able to support on your muzzle devices and whatnot. How expensive it would be to do something like that, because there's a lot of Sandmans out there in the world, and there's plenty of people who might have a worn out chemo on them, and maybe just want to switch to something else, or might want to switch to different muzzle devices. There is some thought there, but it's still going to be the best way to go about that is to send the can in, have it chopped, and put ASR Bravo threads on it, and then use what you want to use. Check out Area 419 mount. You mean there's the regular one? I've seen it plenty of times. I personally don't like it, but I mean, we can hop on their site if you want me to. I got no problem with that. I'm here for you guys. So we need to be on this webpage. All my muzzle devices, maybe? Yeah, it's just their Hellfire system. I know they market it as being, I mean, I don't I'm not sure what the question is. Like, are we trying to compare it to like chemo, or are we just trying to compare it to like mount systems in general out there? I mean, it's an interesting concept. I don't think it's really needed anymore. I get why they did it and why it came out, like what it was trying to do when it came out. Um, they make fantastic reloading stuff, though. I will give them that. They make some bitchin' reloading stuff. Though I don't know if I could ever bring myself to spend that kind of money on reloading stuff. I'd have to really be into it. And I mean, I like it, but some people are like really into it. Like, oh my God, I shot a 0.01 million group today. We were looking at these the other day actually, and I was like, man, it would be cool to make some really bitchin' solid aluminum reloading trays. Fucking expensive though, but it's a big ass piece of metal they got to machine, and they got to do a lot of machine work to it. So it costs money. They made a mount that would convert a same end to direct thread. Okay, let's look for it. I haven't seen that then. I didn't know that. I'm sorry. I guess let's go back to mounts. I guess I'm missing it, man. Oh, here we go. Maybe it's like a offshoot on here. TBAC. This is the universal, so I doubt it's in here. Aha, we found it. Okay, I had not seen this before. I'm just now scrolling through the. Let's see one in action. Is there more info? I can spell area correctly. Jesus Christ.
Hey guys, this is Greg at Area 419, showing you our newest product ready for market. It is the chemo adapter for dead air stainless suppressors. It's made out of 17-4 stainless, black nitride, and it's very durable. I think the product you're going to like quite a bit. It's available for our Hellfire mounting system. To install it, you're going to take your dead air suppressor. You'll find on here a locking ring, so you will be able to, let's say, you'll unscrew to the point that it stops. You'll then find two little lugs, and it's keys that kind of catch one another to keep it from threading off. You will pull back on the spring collar and unscrew. You don't have to do that each time when it gets a lug and a little loose. And you'll simply pull off your tightening nut and the spring and ratchet systems. You'll then start to install ours. You'll notice there are 3 lugs on the inside of the suppressor. When you put our mount in, it will only go in one direction. They're asymmetrically spaced, so it only goes in and out one way. So I want you to put that in, rotate it about 180 degrees, and then take the nut that we provide, tighten the nut, screw it on the back. At that point, you want to find either a large crescent wrench or a 1 3/8 inch open box end or socket, or if you need an inexpensive crow's foot, we'll have a link to one on Amazon in the product description on the website. If you're going to take it, you got to get it tight. So we'll use soft jaws and something like that. You may be able to do it by hand with a wrench. If you're going to grab it, get it on there, get a good torque, and you're done. We've got a taper on our mount that squeezes it in the back of the suppressor, grabs it really well. You're going to get a nice, repeatable, solid lockup with this dead air on your Hellfire mount. $140 on area419.com. Link will be in the comments. Thanks, guys.
Okay, I would say probably right now, obviously, that you don't have a lot of different things you can do and that there's nothing wrong with going to that. Will it be quieter? I don't know that it'll necessarily be like quieter than like a regular chemo single port. It's probably going to be about the same. So, but if you are tired of chemo, that looks like, at least for right now, a pretty good option to go with. It's about as much as I can give you until I was like, if I ever had one in my hand, owned one, got to try it, type of thing. So that's cool. I mean, I'm glad someone's done something. I never realized that they had done one for Sandman. I knew they had done one for some other stuff. Good for them, that's for sure. And I think that's basically all we got for tonight, guys. So unless there's anything else you want answered, I think I'm going to jump off here. And we'll see you guys next Friday. As far as next week goes, like I was saying, we're probably going to be shooting a small guy, specifically on 5.56. This is a dedicated 5.56 can, and then we'll look at the data across, all I think there's 15 suppressors tested right now on 5.56 on the channel, if I'm not mistaken. It's either 14 or 15, maybe 16, I forget, somewhere right in there, and we'll see how it does. I think it'll be cool to see where this lands, because we've got now selective venting again, but now on a smaller package. And I'm really looking forward to see where it lands. And then I'm really looking forward, like I said, to the 10.5 versus 12.5 mid gas. So 10.5 carbine length versus 12.5 mid length gas systems. That's going to be really interesting, especially when we get into the smaller cans, like the 5s and the 6s and things of that nature. What the performance differences might be. It gets pretty interesting, actually. So we'll see you guys Tuesday. Probably we'll do the tabletop on this guy, or we might do I'm almost done editing it. The big kind of carbine, mounting video. Not sure. Got to get that one in there at some point. So, or maybe we triple up next week, do 3 videos. We'll see how it goes. I just finally, for you guys who might not know or been following me very closely, my plate has been extremely full for about 6 weeks now. It's been full for a while, actually. But we're finally kind of coming over the hump. We got a few big things done this week, and finally hope to have more time. I want to be able to do more public videos, like kind of smaller, low-key videos on the YouTube for that crowd as well. You guys saw one quick one this week, actually, so I'd like to kind of do a little bit more of that kind of stuff too. So there's always something kind of for everybody, whether you want to be just a non-contributor or I don't know what the right term is, kind of like I don't know. I have a word in my brain, but because I'm on the live stream, I just can't think of it. So everyone have a great freaking weekend. I've got this weekend off, so I'm looking forward to just shooting some cans, metering some cans, and we'll see you guys back here Tuesday.